Have you ever felt like something inside you is holding you back, sabotaging your best efforts? What if I told you there's a hidden side of your personality lurking in the shadows, influencing your every move? This hidden side is what Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, calls the shadow. The shadow is a part of our unconscious mind that contains all the aspects of ourselves we reject or deny. This includes repressed desires, instincts, weaknesses, and parts of our personality we consider negative or undesirable. These hidden traits influence our behavior and emotions in ways we often don't realize. Understanding the shadow is crucial because it directly impacts how we live, how we interact with others, and ultimately, how we find fulfillment in life. What is the shadow? Carl Jung explains that everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is acknowledged and integrated into our conscious life, the darker and denser it becomes. When these hidden aspects of ourselves are repressed, they can burst forth suddenly, often in moments of unawareness, causing us to act in ways that surprise even ourselves. The shadow forms through societal norms, personal experiences, and repression. From a young age, we learn which behaviors, thoughts, and emotions are unacceptable to our family and society. These traits get pushed into our unconscious mind. For example, a child might be told that anger is bad, leading them to repress their anger and making it a part of their shadow. As we grow, these repressed traits don't just disappear. Instead, they simmer beneath the surface, subtly influencing our decisions, actions, and emotions. For instance, someone who has repressed their anger might find themselves passive-aggressively lashing out in situations where they feel powerless, without even realizing why they're reacting that way. The impact of the shadow on our lives. The shadow isn't just a repository of negative traits. It also holds various strengths and potentials that, if left unexplored, can lead to a diminished personality. These unexplored aspects create unconscious obstacles that hinder the development and expression of these positive traits. Understanding that everyone carries a shadow helps us recognize its profound impact on our lives. Think about a time when you felt an intense, irrational emotion. Was it really about what was happening at that moment, or was it something deeper? Often, these strong reactions are tied to our shadow, which, when ignored, can express itself in inexplicable moods, irritability, and even cruelty. When we project our shadow onto others, it can lead to conflicts and misunderstandings. For example, if you find yourself feeling irrationally angry or judgmental towards someone, it might be worth asking whether the traits you dislike in them are actually traits you've repressed in yourself. By understanding and integrating these parts of our shadow, we can reduce these negative reactions and improve our relationships. The persona versus the shadow. In Jung's model of the psyche, there are various structures that interact with one another in our inner world. Two of these, the persona and the shadow, are central to our identity. The persona is the mask we wear for the outside world, while the shadow is the part of ourselves we hide. The ego, which represents our conscious identity, stands alongside the shadow. The persona is often shaped by societal demands and personal desires to appear a certain way, but it is not the real personality. It's the version of ourselves that we show to the world, the one that conforms to social expectations and norms. The shadow, on the other hand, represents those parts of ourselves that we do not want to acknowledge. However, Jung emphasizes that to achieve psychological wholeness, we must recognize and integrate these shadow aspects into our lives. This doesn't mean that the persona is inherently bad. It's a necessary part of functioning in society. However, problems arise when we become too attached to our persona, believing it to be our true self, while neglecting the shadow. This imbalance can lead to a superficial sense of self, disconnected from the deeper, more authentic aspects of who we are. The collective shadow. The shadow is not just a personal phenomenon, it also has a collective dimension. The collective shadow consists of the darker aspects of society and culture that oppose our shared values. It manifests in social issues like racism, oppression, and violence. When we ignore these collective shadows, they can lead to significant harm on a societal level. Jung observed that the collective shadow often emerges during times of great social upheaval. For instance, he predicted the rise of the Nazi regime in Germany by analyzing the dreams of his German patients, which revealed the collective anxieties and fears that were brewing in the unconscious minds of the people. The collective shadow is dangerous because it often goes unrecognized until it's too late. When entire societies repress certain truths or deny their darker aspects, these repressed energies can manifest in destructive ways: wars, genocides, systemic injustices. Recognizing and addressing the collective shadow is just as crucial as dealing with the personal one, as it helps prevent history from repeating itself. Integrating the shadow. A path to wholeness. Integrating. The shadow is not an easy task, but it is essential for achieving psychological wholeness. This process, known as shadow work, involves confronting and embracing the aspects of ourselves that we have repressed. It requires self-reflection, honesty, and a willingness to explore the darker sides of our personality. One way to begin shadow work is by keeping a journal. Write down moments when you felt a strong emotional reaction and reflect on what might have caused it. Over time, you'll start to see patterns that reveal your hidden shadow. Another approach is to observe your dreams, as the shadow often appears in them, offering insights into your unconscious mind. Shadow work is not about eliminating these darker aspects of ourselves, but rather understanding and integrating them. This process allows us to live more authentically without being unconsciously driven by repressed emotions or desires. By acknowledging the shadow, we gain a deeper understanding of our true self, leading to greater self-acceptance and inner peace. The power of the shadow. Despite its dark connotations, the shadow is not purely negative. In fact, it can be a source of great strength and creativity. By confronting and integrating the shadow, we can transform these repressed aspects into a source of inner authority and self-awareness. This process allows us to live more authentically, free from the unconscious influences that hold us back. As Carl Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." By bringing the shadow into the light of consciousness, we can reduce its destructive potential and unlock a deeper understanding of ourselves. The shadow also holds the key to many of our greatest potentials. Traits like assertiveness, confidence, and even creativity can be hidden within the shadow if they were repressed during our development. By integrating the shadow, we not only heal old wounds, but also unlock these hidden potentials, allowing us to live fuller, more dynamic lives. Final thoughts. Understanding and integrating the shadow is a journey of self-discovery that can lead to profound personal growth. It's not about eliminating the dark aspects of our personality, but rather embracing them as part of our wholeness. By doing so, we not only transform ourselves, but also contribute to the betterment of society as a whole. The journey of integrating the shadow requires courage, patience, and a deep commitment to self-awareness. It's about facing the parts of ourselves that we'd rather ignore and learning to accept them as part of who we are. In doing so, we become more complete, more authentic, and ultimately more at peace with ourselves and the world around us. So, the next time you feel that something is holding you back, remember, it might just be your shadow, and by facing it, you can unlock your true potential.